Hello everybody, it is Professor Parish and welcome back to English 122, the short semester, and we're on Module 2 this week. So I'm recording this on Saturday, so hopefully if you've not gotten your discussion forum and reading response 1 completed, hopefully you've watched the lecture video for week 1 and you've done those assignments. They're due by Sunday night. But let's talk about Module 2. So we're going to talk about Paper 1 today, and we're going to talk about these other 2 assignments. So if you can either click on the module page to find it, or you can go right here to the guide. So let's go over and look at that. All right, so I'll be putting the lecture video onto here, but let me go back. Went to the discussion forum instead. So module tool guide, you've got some readings this week. Since this is a shortened semester, a lot of these readings are kind of packed together, but as you'll notice, the readings themselves are only a couple pages each. So it's really not a lot in the grand scheme of things. It just looks like a lot because there's a lot of different sections we're talking about this week, but they're all 1 to 2 pages long, so it's not going to be anything crazy. But we are talking about setting, tone, theme, symbol, and genre itself. Genre being a type of writing. We're going to look at several different genres this semester, and in terms of literature. Setting is obviously an element of short story that's really important, as is theme and symbol, and then tone and style. In our old textbook, it was just called style, but the new textbook puts it as tone and style, which I like, because tone is very important. Your setting obviously is where everything takes place at. Your story needs to have some type of setting, whether it's a place or a time period or a specific location. The tone and style is how it's structured and what it looks like, how the author uses language. You have your theme, which is the purpose, your symbolism, which are hidden meanings beyond the surface, and then talking about genre and how to read long stories and novels, which I included that reading long stories and novels bit only because we're looking at short stories in this section, but in your other college classes, you may have to read a long novel. I know a lot of our history and government classes require you to read a novel in them, so I like this section where they talk about the importance of how to read and analyze those different types of writing. And then if you choose options 2 or 3 for paper 1, which we'll talk about here in a second, I would definitely make sure you read the last section, writing about a story, on pages 1783 to 1807, because that might be very helpful for you writing paper 1. So, and I'll put our lecture video in here, but there are 3 assignments due this week in addition to our readings. And so the first assignment is the discussion forum. So there's a lot of stories in our textbook. A lot. So much that you're kind of spoiled for choice, right? So what I'd like for you to do is choose 2 stories for this discussion forum, 2 short stories between chapters 9 and 14. And so in your discussion forum post, I want you to tell me, 1, what are the 2 stories that you chose? Why did you pick them? Question 2, with each story, what is the best element of short story used and what is the least effective? Do these short stories use setting the best? Do they use tone? Do they use symbolism? Do they use characters, plot? What are the best elements that they use? And then what's the least effective? Because even a really good story probably has an element of short story that it doesn't quite use as well. So I want to know, in your opinion, what that is. And then after reviewing our chapters, which element of short story or element of fiction do you consider the most important and why? And it varies from person to person. There's no wrong answer to this question. It's really your opinion. For me as a reader, I am a character-driven story. Like a story can have a weird plot and crazy stuff happening that's fantastical or science fiction or romantic or realistic. The plot can be whatever, but what drives me to a story and really liking it are characters that are relatable, that are dynamic, that are complex. So for me, character is the most important element of the story because it's what I relate to the most. But I know a lot of people that they're plot people, they're stylistic people. They want to see something stylized and cool. They may be thematic people. They want to know, what's the purpose of the story? Does it connect to my morals, or does it connect to my dreams or ambitions? You know, you can choose pretty much any element you want to. I just want to know, which element do you consider to be the most important and why? So that's the discussion forum, and then make sure that you respond to at least 4 peers by Sunday. So the second assignment we have is the reading response. And so I'll be grading your first reading responses this week, but this is the second one. And so what I would like for you to do is you'll choose, there's 4 short stories you're going to look at, and the short stories in our book are not long. But I'd like for you to choose, first of all, one of the stories from this section, second, one of the stories from this section, third, this one, and fourth, this one. So choosing those short stories and then in your response, answer these 4 questions about them with a brief intro and conclusion, like a couple sentences, just looking at it. Your answers don't have to be long because, again, this is only supposed to be a page long in length, so it doesn't have to be a long response, but just answering the questions as concisely and specific as you can. And so then the last thing I want to talk to y'all about is the thesis and outline for paper 1. And we kind of went over the paper 1 guidelines last week, that you can either write your own story or you can analyze and compare and contrast stories in your book. And I would say if you want to, you can take stories from your reading response and use it for paper 1. I'm okay with that because you're already reading them. You can use them for paper 1 if you want to. But for this assignment, the thesis and outline, the way that it works is this is just a work in progress outline of what you're going to write about. So I'm very much trying to break students from the mindset of the 2 a.m. procrastination station. You know, I was always that person that I wanted to get my draft done really quickly so that I could move on. But I was also somebody that really freaked out about deadlines. So as soon as something was assigned, I'd try to get it done so I didn't have to worry about it anymore. But procrastination happens to everybody. My younger brother is total opposite of me. He'd wait till if the paper was due at 11 o'clock at night, he'd be in his room at 2 p.m. that day trying to check out a paper. And I'd be like, dude, I would help you if you had not waited till the last minute. But my goal is to try to keep you from doing that, because if you rush something under the threat of procrastination, typically the end result is not good. If you rush a draft out right before the deadline, it's probably not going to be the best quality that it can be. And you may stress because you don't know what to write about. And you just, it's like the SpongeBob meme where he stares at the paper for 5 hours and then the most he writes is the word the. You don't want that to happen. So the idea is that this outline is going to keep you from doing that. It is not set in stone. Whatever you turn in for this assignment, you can change it. I want you to give me an idea of what you're going to write about. And then if you change it along the way, that's fine. But this way you at least have something in front of you that when you go to write your paper, you're not just pulling it out of the air or out of nowhere. You have a foundation. So the idea is that you'll start out by telling me which option did you choose? Did you choose option 1, 2, or 3 for this paper? And then tell me what your paper is going to be about. So if you chose to write your own story, give me a brief 1-sentence synopsis of it. And if you chose to analyze a story or 2 stories, then explain to me which stories you picked out of our textbook. And then the second thing is create an outline. Now, this can be very basic. It can be just a skeletal framework where you tell me the points of your paper. So if you're analyzing 2 stories, you can tell me I'm going to talk about the characters. You can outline each element of short story and say that's what you're going to talk about, right? If you write your own paper, then you can tell me what's the basic summary of it plot-wise. If you have a secret twist turn at the end and you don't want to spoil it for me, then you can just say, hey, I don't want to spoil the ending, but there's going to be a twist. So that's all you have to say. And then it can be very basic. It's just the framework, but I want to know what option you picked, what is your paper going to be about, and give me a very brief skeletal framework of what the outline is going to be. And then that'll be due by Sunday. So, like I said, you can change it if you want. It's just to get an idea of what you're going to do for the paper. So that's pretty much it. If you need to go back and see the guidelines, if you go to Module 1, the guidelines for Paper 1 are right here. I'm going to put our lecture video in Module 2's guide, probably right under the readings. I'm going to put the lecture video right there. But as always, if y'all have any questions, please let me know. I'll be going through your reading responses from week 1 this week and answering any questions. And if you have questions about your paper, feel free to let me know. All right? But in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and I'll be back next week to talk about Module 3 in English 122. Bye.